All right, so I am going to review so far today's session, this week's session, and kind of what I'm looking at going into the week. I'm going to just show you guys something that I look at here. I do look for a lot of divergences. Divergences are not necessarily an execution on their own, but it's just kind of like when things aren't going the same way, it's kind of just like a yellow flag. It doesn't mean like, see, here's a divergence. It doesn't mean go short. It just means like something's not adding up. And you just kind of want to, be aware. And I did say in my video yesterday, when you see price pinning like this in this choppy range, look where it goes after it's done. Same thing here. We have price pinning in this range, and where does it go when it's done? That's kind of where I'm paying attention. Not so much where this is pinning, but where it travels to once it's done. And what level does that bounce from? So let's look over sell off into Friday. We have some, accelerated liquidations. We open with that gap up, but we don't quite fill it. So what happens? We open with a gap down, fill the rest of that gap, and then we fill the rest of that gap. So we just kind of took care of that gap fill today. Pinned up here and sold off. So as you can see, we are kind of just holding this traditional off of this Thursday high to that Friday low. Tested it here at 700s. And as you see, we do kind of come back and look above that level, pin at that level, and then sell off again. So I'm going to be honest, I feel like this is a little bit uncharted territory for a lot of people. This is look at this price action. It's a little bit crazy, but we have the government shutdown. We have our newsprints being rescheduled. We have these tensions with China. We have, there's like so many things going on right now. We have this Fed meeting coming up, but now these news isn't printing, and the labor market's not doing good. And you see there's like so many things going on top of this trade stuff. So it's kind of, if you look at gold, it's just going to the moon, and who knows really like what's going on. I don't even, I just kind of stop even thinking about it. I just try to trade the price action. So as you can see, we do sell off here, close, and then we actually have that sell off after that cash settlement going into the after hours Friday, and futures does close a little bit after the stock market does, about like 15 minutes. So we have that sell off into that futures after hours, open with that gap up. And as you can see, we actually pop up in the overnight session and start trading these shorts. So there's actually a pretty clean sequence, short sequence. Boom, 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 boom. And as you can see here, starting to get exhausted, followed by that, V-shaped recovery out of that low. So what I would be looking for to hold out of this low would be this sequence here. I'll be looking for us to maintain above the 640s probably in the overnight session, but we could even come back down and retest this 620s. That's kind of what I am looking at for the overnight session, with that target above its 750s. And then I am looking for this higher time frame short sequence that started out of last week's high to that Friday RTH low. That sequence becomes invalidated above this 760. So I am looking for a break of this zone if we are going to rotate higher. But as you can see, we are kind of like just holding below this 720, 730s level. So right now, this is where I'm monitoring for potential exhaustion as we approach this level again. It's kind of a weird, it's not a very pretty chart, I'll tell you that. So back out into a higher time frame series. And you can see this price action was we were just range bound for a while. And when we're pinning near the highs like that, it's not that shocking that we're going to get that sell off, because you want to see a little bit of a pullback, rotation higher, pullback, rotation higher, which we weren't getting. So looking at a higher time frame series, you see we are inside of this traditional that did hold here right around 520s, 530s. We come down and test the second level of this traditional right here at about 590s or so. And as you can see, we do have a nice reaction on the test of that level. So this sequence does have these targets above here at 944. I have some targets up here at 802 and 851. So right now this sequence is holding. Sellers are reloading here and they are failing to push that price lower. As you can see, they are trying to reload. So what we're kind of monitoring is overhead supply as we approach this area again above 730s. And that's kind of really all we're looking at right now. And it's kind of, as long as we're maintaining above this 450s level, for me, I'm not going to switch into a bearish bias necessarily until we're like breaking and holding what appears to be a short sequence. So if you look right here, we do sell off, we have some liquidations. However, we are rotating up into that next short sequence and we are failing to push price lower than where we put in this swing low over here. So right now price is starting to press higher a little bit and we will probably get some sort of short coverings if we do kind of push above these 730s, 760s, up into the 800s. That's kind of what I'm monitoring for. Either one of two scenarios, like sellers are going to want to keep the price below this 730s level, ideally, and then this 760s level. And buyers are going to want to keep it above this 650s and 600s. And so now we're going to have this choppy battle between who gets exhausted first. It's kind of what you can expect. And so what you want to monitor for is a break of structure, because a break of structure would signal that one participant is starting to get exhausted. That's the nuance and the importance of break of structure, because I think a lot of people will say, well, this is a break of structure, without really taking into consideration what does a break of structure actually mean. So if sellers reload here and they fail to push the price lower, it means buyers are stepping in to accept higher prices and sellers are starting to get exhausted. The supply is starting to dwindle at this level, the inventory is starting to dwindle at this level, and price needs to rotate higher to find more supply. And if buyers decide that, well, this is a good, we're still willing to buy at these prices, price will keep going up until buyers decide, well, we're not going to buy here anymore, and then price will go down to try to find buyers. And so that's the way that the market moves. So as long as buyers step in to accept higher prices, then it's not necessarily that bad. And as you can see, we do have some responsive buying step in at these levels, but if you look at how much time we really spent at these levels, it's really insignificant. So there really isn't a lot of buyers positioned here. It's more like people buying on the way up rather than like a nice proper pullback. So you could see the difference in these sequences here versus here. These are very little teeny tiny pullbacks. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. You can see here another one, down, up, and you can kind of see where buyers are positioned long. So I think that's kind of all I have. A couple little tips in there. Go over NASDAQ really quick. Looking at the hourly. Same thing, we have a head and shoulders pattern right here. Fail to break that neckline and we rotate higher. Some distribution at that high, followed by that sell-off down into this profit targets down here. Let's see, I'll remove some of these. So you can see we sell off into these lower targets here, 41.84, and now we are holding this sequence out of that high, holding below this 51.24s, but we are starting to kind of press up on this level. As you can see that buyers are starting to step into defend at higher levels here. So coming out of that low, we have a counter sequence that started. We kind of hold this level here, 44.50s, 44.90s. Target above here at 52.43 or so. So as we approach these levels of 51.31, this is where I would be monitoring for overhead supply as we approach these zones in the NASDAQ. Right now, this sequence is holding. And if we kind of zoom out into a 4-hour chart, if we see we have that little teeny tiny rollover gap that didn't get filled. And what happened? As soon as the market shows weakness, we go straight for that fill and then bounce right off of it. And then we come down, retest this, and bounce right off of it. So are we going to rotate into a short sequence? Are we going to continue higher? Nobody really knows that for sure. All I could say is that I'm monitoring for distribution as we approach the highs. I'm watching for buyers to defend as we come down to the lows. I'm watching for potential liquidations as we sweep certain levels, and that's kind of all I'm looking for. Could I have predicted the 1,000-point move? No, I couldn't. Of course, I said, of course, distribution as we approach the highs, maybe something like small or modest, but not like this. Am I shocked by it? Not necessarily, but you could see that this move, we come out of this balance area, rotation up, we're coming into this kind of, looks like another big choppy range. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I think it just really depends on the Fed meeting this month. Because if they don't cut rates, there's a potential that we are priced in for rate cuts. And if we are priced in for rate cuts and they don't cut rates, then we're going to have a sell-off. If we're not priced in for rate cuts and they cut rates, then we're going to kind of move a little bit higher. But I think with that Fed meeting coming up this month, that adds another kind of thing of who knows into the mix of all of these things that are going on of who knows. Economy's not doing good, the government shutdown, trade wars, tariffs, and there's just so many who knows going on right now. So it's kind of what I'm looking at for the S&P and the NASDAQ. And then I'll kind of jump on in the morning and review the overnight action, and we'll see what is kind of like happening. So hopefully you guys get some rest, and I'll talk to you guys in the morning. Bye.